I'm going to raise a very serious issue. It needs to be looked at by someone with a brain. Hopefully everybody watching has got a brain, and I suspect you have. I need you to think about what I'm going to say, because our Constitution clearly says what's going on is blatant treason. Last night I watched a live broadcast on outlaw motorcycle gang being pulled over, and the people arrested and their motorbikes taken and seized. Where was the court? Who told you they are outlaws? Outlaw means outside of the law. Read your dictionary and weep. You say they're outside the law, so you've already decided that they're guilt. Well, why aren't you applying the same to politicians, to yourselves as public officers and not sworn officers of the Crown? Where does that put you? Outlaws. You see, in the High Court in 2010 in South Australia, the High Court ruled in Tatani versus the South Australian government that you can't have a law that takes away the judicial function of the court. So the presumption of innocence is paramount in our law. You can't take it out, and you have. You've taken away the oath to the Crown. You did it. You've taken the Crown out of everything that we've got. Your political parties. So what are your political parties? Outlaw political parties. That's what they are. Outside of the law. Are they? Are you required to get inside the law? Well, if you refer to Chapter 3, Section 76, page 795 of the Constitution, you're required by us, and I know I'm requiring you, as a sworn officer of the Crown, to show me where in the Constitution you derive your authority outside of the Crown, outside of our proper law. Section 51 says, the Commonwealth has the authority to pass laws for the peace, order and good governance of the Commonwealth of Australia. Well, when are we going to get it? When are the political parties going to comply with the Constitution? When it is, I saw Mostyn's little dribble last night about what she thinks. It's nonsense, Mostyn. You got it wrong again. You are not the Governor-General. You are required to be selected a particular way and comply with Section 61 to 68 of our Constitution. You are not doing. A Royal Commission does require the Crown. We don't have one. You've taken it out. You have your version of the Royal Styles and Title Act. You had no right to do it as a colony. The Constitution's clear. You, even if the colonial laws within the Act was never put in place, it is beyond a colony to legislate against any imperial act. It is very, very clear. Look it up, read it, and weep. You have stepped outside of the Commonwealth. You removed the Crown. You've changed the rule of law. You've decided the Parliament's supreme when it's not. The Constitution is clear it's not. And under Chapter 3, Section 76, and that reference page 795, you have to state where your authority comes from. You don't have one. You don't have any authority granted by the Constitution. So what it really is attempting to do, Albanese and the treasonous traitors called politicians, are trying to overthrow the Constitution and state a fact that they are going to do what they want. They are going to take over this country. That is blatant treason against the Crown of England. This country is a self-governing colony. Forget all your nonsense about what you think it is. It isn't what you think, it is what we say. The people join together. You have no control over us. You need to learn the fact that you're there to pass laws, and you can't, for the peace, order and good governance of the Commonwealth of Australia. The people. The people. You're not even looking at anything. You are trying to cover up the biggest blight in this world. You say, oh, it's Islamophobia. I'm not against Islam at all. I'm against the radical part that decides it can stand over us, take over countries, and introduce its own laws. That can't be. 116 allows you, or disallows, the Parliament to pass laws over anyone's religion or question it. But we don't have to question it. Our Constitution says follow our customs and beliefs, assimilate into our society, not your own, or get out. Why aren't you making them do it, Albanese? Because when you're propped by a reporter at Christmas and ask questions, you refuse to answer them. Oh, I didn't know anything about that. Hang on, you were there. What she referred to was a meeting between you and a particular party which was detrimental to this country. Why didn't you answer the question? Because you didn't want to be put on the spot. If you're not put on the spot, how do we get proper answers? You want them to put the questions first so you know what you're going to get hit with. No, it's the truth. If they ask you a question, answer it. If you can't answer the question, get out of there. Don't get involved with them. But you can't answer. All you're doing all the time is misleading and deceiving. And it's not just Albanese. It's every political party. You are outlaw political parties. You are not inside the law. You are outlaw people because you don't swear the oath of allegiance to the crown required. Like judges, they're outlaw judges. A court is a gathering under the sovereign. How do you gather under a sovereign when you don't have the sovereign in your oath? How do you do that? The Constitution requires it. Every senator and every member of the House of Representatives, before taking their seat, must swear the oath in the Constitution. So the whole lot can pack up and get out. You haven't done it. You are outlaws, outside the law, sitting in treason, attainted of treason, incapable of sitting. Read section 44 of the Constitution. Your political parties are blatant treason. If there's no authority in the Constitution for you to exist, you don't exist, and you're sitting in treason. When you have a law that takes away the judicial function of a court, which is the majority of what I can get from the so-called legislation you're put together. That wasn't done in a couple of weeks. That's done over the last 12 or 18 months. You see, for all the time you've been trying to push what you want. A so-called independent sovereign nation which doesn't exist. We are a self-governing colony of England. We said in 1999 we retain what we've got. We rejected your stupid republic. What you're trying to say is you have all this authority. You don't. If you do, show us in the Constitution ours, our interpretation, not the green piece of mucus, not that garbage that doesn't show you anything. You come on TV, you come on Facebook, you dribble, you cry, you scream, oh, somebody put me memes up with me in bikinis. Well, you look better that way than in normal, my opinion. It's not a hate speech. What comes out of your mouth is absolute hate for this country and hate for our system. That is hate speech. You hate our system because it doesn't fall within the bounds of your religion that you call it. It's not a religion, it's a total turnover of our system into socialist communism and the one world system, which we didn't want to be. We've never voted to join the United Nations, so you can't have it. Get the interpretation of our Constitution, and it says clearly on page 631 and 632, any authority you've got for external powers, and it's not to sign us up to other things without first asking us. The supreme, absolute, uncontrollable authority remains with us, the people, not you. You are lying when you say you've got this right, that right, the other right. You've got none. Oh, you're going to try and soften it now by withdrawing. The Labor Party is following constitutional nonsense from your Green Book. What does socialist communism do? 2 steps forward and 1 back, and that's what you're trying with this legislation. You want control of this country, you're not having it. The people have control through their constitution. You don't like that, get out of our parliament. You're being paid for nothing. And don't think you're going to do it and get away with it and get a fat big pension, because that's going. We pay for ours, you pay nothing. And you're not going to have it. It's time you stop getting advice from idiots, because just because they chuck a handful of money in your pocket doesn't mean you get to say what they want. You are there under oath to debate and pass laws for us. Laws put together by the executive government, which is 10 from the lower house, 8 from the upper, selected by the Governor-General, which we don't have. So who are they going to select now? Nobody. And when you do, they have to swear the oath in our Constitution. Oh, they don't exist. You cannot sign these agreements. You stir up Penny Wong all the time. Why don't the federal police just arrest her for treason? She signed up to the WHO. Bragged about it, thought it was funny. WEF, UN. We didn't give you any consent. If we did, show us where. We didn't. I can tell you that now. So what you're doing is committing blatant treason. Why aren't the police arresting you? Oh, look, because they're your own private army. Outlaw army gang pretending to be police. Creatures of statute, not officers of the Crown. Personating officers of the Crown by having the Crown on the shoulder pips. Talking about the Commissioner, Federal Police Commissioner. I don't care what you've achieved. Apparently you achieved a lot, but you didn't achieve the truth because you didn't swear the lawful oath. So what are you doing now? Why are you there? You are there to uphold the law under the direct control of the Governor-General, if we had a lawful one, which we don't. Nothing to do with political parties. They're all outlaw gangs. Every police officer who gets on a motorbike and rides down the road is part of an unlawful motorcycle gang. You say the others, because of their system, because of their clothes, they are, so you are. You speed when you think, and you think you can just get away with what you're doing and take this country over by passing what you call laws without the Crown. If there is no Crown, there's no authority to get any power to pass the laws. And you've taken it out. You had a dodgy election in Western Australia. So your federal election only had 5 states operating, because Western Australia was under investigation, and it came back, look at that, on the 2nd and 3rd of December, that the election was fraudulent. There wasn't enough papers. People were sent away and unable to vote. And then you go back and you fine people for not voting? What, are you just mad or something, or just plain stupid? The people have a right to vote. There is nowhere in the Constitution where it says you can compel us to. It says until the Parliament otherwise provides. We've never had a lawful federal Parliament because we've never had 6 state constitutions in place in compliance with Section 106 of the Constitution. They were all gone by 1975, but they disappeared a lot earlier than that. Why are you not complying with our Constitution? That is the parameter set by us as to how we wish to be governed. Not how you wish to govern us, how we wish you to govern for us, not over us. And there you keep coming back with your same lies, your same deception. You stand up there as if, oh, look at that, Susan Ley doesn't agree with the government and this so-called law of a so-called government, because they're not a government. They're a nothing. The whole lot is theft. Everything you're doing is fraud. Fraud wipes it out in inception. As I've said over the last few weeks, every law must be for us, not over us. You aren't granted anything else. You're not granted any other authority. You're granted the authority to pass laws for the well-being and good governance of the Commonwealth of Australia. Every state constitution has the same text, slightly different, but meaning exactly the same. You cannot decide somebody is guilty. You don't have that authority. There are circumstances that arise where you have the right to enforce a lawful law. Enforce a lawful law. If those bikies were doing something wrong, then fine, pull them over. Book them. Steal their motorbikes without a conviction and an order from the court to seize them, you're stealing their motorbikes. If they get off, they've still got to pay a huge amount of money for each motorbike to be towed away. So you're convicting them and making them pay a penalty because you think. You're not paid to think. You're paid to decide whether their actions are legal or lawful or unlawful, for a better point. Now, Section 98 of the Road Traffic Act knocks out the whole of the Road Traffic Act of Western Australia. It says the speed recording devices are prima facie evidence of an offence and must be abided by. Can't be disputed. Meaning that is an unlawful law. Takes away the judicial function of a court. Am I correct? Yes. Tatani versus South Australian government says you can't have a law that takes away the judicial function of the court. The whole act is invalid. Get rid of that part. It doesn't comply under 109. It doesn't comply at all because it takes away the judicial function of the court. You want to argue that, take it to the High Court. At present, to instigate that act, that is criminal contempt of the High Court. Go look at the law, and they have the power to punish contempt of its court. The High Court does. Why haven't they done it? Why haven't they issued orders to shut you clowns up? Why haven't they done anything? Don't say they can't. The Chief Justice of the High Court can step in where the Governor-General isn't lawful, and she isn't, and act in that position. Read your Constitution, it's there. Why aren't you abiding by it? Because you got no guts. You see, when you apply Pythagoras' theorem to the position of speed cameras, recording devices in cars against the vehicle coming towards you, which is not sitting in a dead straight line and holding and not even moving, so there's always a variance. Can you do that? No. The law has to be accurate. So how do you know they're speeding? So if you set a range that they can't sit in, that's different. That's different. What the law is there for is to be precise. If you're breaking the law, then you've got to pay a penalty. But what law are you breaking? Who are you harming? It's there for the good governance and well-being of us, is it? Is it? I take points off. Why points? If it's an offence and you shouldn't be driving until you correct your attitude, or why are you letting them drive off? Why are you just sending them an infringement in the mail, which you're not allowed to? That's the judicial function of a court. Put a penalty on it when you prove it. But when you go to court, you're an object, a thing, or a person under the Corporations Act. You don't even get to say anymore. You're going into a court of presumption that presumes you were guilty when you walked through the door. And you will not listen to argument unless you be pedantic like me and keep pushing it until it eventually gave in relation to councils. We said no. Why have we still got them? Because you want to collect revenue. Where does that revenue go? It puts massive amounts of money into people off the street. Van Stein and McKim in Geraldton. And what do they do for it? Nothing. Has he come back from his little holiday to New Zealand yet? And he only just got elected again as the mayor. How does that one work? Is he being paid? More than likely. But if he isn't, that's good. You say the electoral boundaries are there. The electoral boundaries are in the state constitution. Who told you you could change them? Who told you could change the boundaries and take over shires and put them all into one? Oh, because that's the Labor Party policy, isn't it? Create all these massive super councils and then kick the state parliaments out and run it from there in a dictatorial fashion. What do you call that, Albanese? That's overturning the Constitution. The Boundaries Act doesn't apply when the colonies become states. Doesn't matter what Ann Toomey says, it's not nonsense. She's full of nonsense when she won't listen. There is no walls in the division of every state in this country. There's no walls there. There's no fence there. There's no nothing. So it is an imaginary line on a map. You say your satellites make it accurate? Big deal. When have you ever proved that? You haven't. Who told you could do what you did? Nobody. You just decided you'd do it. The Constitution sets parameters, and I'm not getting ridiculous with it. The High Court upholds those parameters. Why aren't you abiding by it? Why don't we have courts sitting under the Crown, gathering under the sovereign? The sovereign is not what you create under your version of Royal Styles and Titles Act, because you've got no authority granted by the Constitution to have one, so you can't have it. Did you ask us if we wanted one? No. You tried to inflict it all on us. And when you got caught out with no laws, you decided to have a constitutional convention in late 1980. And you come up with a green vomit, mucus set of circumstances in your constitution, all based on opinions of people taught in your ridiculous system. We have a constitution. We have an interpretation of that by the people who put our constitution together. They did not put a constitution together for you. They put it governing over you. You're required to abide by it. You're required to be able to state where in that constitution your authority to do what you do comes from, and you can't do it. You are attempting to overthrow this country and control the people by the whim of some idiot in a uniform who is not an officer of the Crown. You don't have that authority. You don't have the authority to call yourself a government, because you're not. You're a parliament. Page 791 says neither the federal nor the state parliament are sovereign bodies. They're legislatures with limited authority. Do you comprehend what that means? A legislature is to debate and pass laws for the good governance of this country, subject to our constitution. That's what it means. Do they have plenary powers? They have absolute authority in their sphere of, of legislative authority to pass those laws. Legislative authority in that sphere, not to put laws together. That's done by the executive, both at state and federal level. The executive government, which is 10 from the lower house, 8 from the upper. There's no exceptions. They are selected by the governor at state level, the governor general at federal level. We have neither. We have neither. So who's putting that legislation together? Political parties who we did not grant authority through our Constitution. If an authority isn't granted, it's denied and remains with the people. Read the Constitution. Oh yeah, you got your own now, so you can do what you like. No, you can't. You cannot. You should have had a royal commission, but you can't have one. You can't. Until such time as you put the crown back. How can you have a royal commission without the crown? Are you void of all understanding, or just too stupid, or so wrapped up in your treasonous attitude you can do what you like? You can't. We have a constitution for a reason. To tell you how to govern for us, not over us. No other reason. We set the parameters, and you have to comply with them. If you don't, you need to go to jail so you can learn how to comply with things. You reckon we've got to abide by your stupid rules. I mean, how dumb are you? You drive down the highway, and do you know the limit? We do, it's 0.05. Well, how come you book people at that? I asked the prosecutor in Geraldton, well, how does that come about? And he says, oh, the regulations, so we can do it. Regulations are not law. How do you step outside the parameters when it's set 0.05? I don't care if it's 0, I don't drink. But what about somebody who's had a drink in the morning the day before or 2 days before and decided to drive home and still goes 0.05? You're going to book him, and yet he's on the limit. You either change your signs to 0.049 or get rid of them altogether, or get rid of your stupid regulations so you can book people at that. That's purely and simply revenue collecting. Oh, if they didn't drink, they wouldn't get it. Well, how come half the cops that drink go home and they're over 0.05? How come that? And the politicians, they drive when they don't have a chauffeur. And 1 or 2 drinks doesn't take much to get over 0.05. Why aren't you locking them up? No, because you got laws where you get revenue from us. That's what you're after, revenue. Told you before, you can't collect tax on our wages. Go read the Constitution and prove you can. We didn't give you permission to do it. You assumed it during the war, and you're continuing it on. You tax everything we got. You put on GST, goods and services, 2 subject to tax in the one law. It's invalid. Read your Constitution. It's fraud and theft and treason. Parity pricing of fuel. Why do we have to be parity priced on fuel, and then you take our gas, and give it to China and all those other countries? Why aren't you giving it to us? If it's very low price, why aren't you giving it to us? Is it a cleaner fuel than petrol? Oh yeah. Much cleaner. I've got the tests from the government chemical laboratories. I know what's in it. It's rubbish from chemical companies. Is that true? Well, according to what it says on the test results, yes it is. Except for the naphthalene. I know what naphthalene does. Enhances the octane. And it works. We used to play with it when we were kids. So what? The problem is there's one law for us, and you've got your own version of laws for you so that you can walk around protected. No. Parliamentary privilege allows you to debate sensitive subjects in Parliament without getting prosecuted. So for clarity in the Parliament, it does not prohibit you being prosecuted for treason, fraud and lies that you commit on the people of this country. Wake up. The Parliament is... The Prime Minister and Parliament are not above our Constitution. The Constitution sits above both houses of Parliament. The Constitution says so. And that's truth. Yours is rubbish. You are subject to the law like everybody else. Try abiding by it. You cannot be exempted. That's why I still can't figure, except for the fact that you're sitting in treason, why you let Gough Whitlam off with an act when he committed an act of treason. Literally, he did. To conceal criminal offences it makes you guilty of that offence. When you're going to release Martin Bryant's things and listen to that case lawfully, if his mental capacity was around 60, which is what they're talking about, or even 70, he's still incapable of forming an opinion whether he's guilty or not. He's not mentally capable of making that decision. Are you going to look into that? Are you going to look into the Royal Commission, which said all the politician and all those people were pedophiles? Are you going to do that? When are you going to put a choker hold on the media and stop them reporting on important things instead of convicting people like you did of Desi Freeman? Oh, 2 cops got shot, so it must have been him, or 3 cops got shot. Did they have their guns out of their holster? Well, one of the pictures showed they did. One of the ones that died, the older one of the 2, had his holster on his left-hand thigh, and it was empty. And he was standing at the door of the bus, it's alleged. So where was his gun? Did he leave it in the car? If they went there with a warrant with all those cops, it would follow that they had some idea he might get violent if he did. Where were the guns in his hands? Why didn't they just charge him at him? And where were the rest? Too many holes in that story. And why are you putting that story out time and time again? And how come 400 odd people couldn't find him? And all the others you brought in, how come they haven't found him? I never said he's not guilty, but I've never said he is guilty. So where's the evidence to prove he is? By a court, not by public opinion, put there by the media. And where is the body cam footage? Where's the one of Queensland? Oh, look at that. Had people did it. We're just dangerous people. You call us sovereign citizens. We're calling you slimy traitors to our country. And you are slimy traitors. If you look at that legislation, Albanese and the Labor Party, that is simply to give political parties control of this country and the people and everything we say and do. No, that's not laws for good governance and well-being of us. That's protecting criminals in this country. If it isn't, where's radical Islam? Not Muslims, radical Islam. It's radical. It isn't the general Islamic opinions, according to them. And if it isn't, why are they allowed to walk around with their hate speech? They hate us because we're not Muslim? Do they hate us? Yeah, they want us to pay a tax to them, even if we convert. Or if we don't convert, they want us to pay a tax because we're substandard to them. In our law, women are equal before the law. In most cases, except wages in some cases, I believe. I don't have confirmation of that. But women are not a quarter of the value of a man or half the value of a man. They're there created as a helper. If you don't like that, or that opinion. The Bible says it, and you can't change the Bible. You can't take any books out of the Bible. You can't take even a letter out of the Bible. It's a letters patent, and that is copyrighted to the Oxford University in England. Go have a look. That's the authorised version, not the NIV and any of the other rubbish. It's time to wake up. People are finding out. People are realising what you're saying is not the truth. What you're proposing is absolute and utter treason, and gives the control to political parties, outlaw political groups. They're not inside the law, so they're outside of it. You are outside of the law. Everybody who is outside of the law, like the public officers, they contravene 114 of the Constitution. They're a private army of the political parties. Are they? Yes. They follow the government rhetoric. They follow the penalties set by them. They charge people. They seize their motorbikes. The High Court said you can seize them. Yeah, with a court order. With a court order, no other way. The whole lot is criminal. Time to wake up and put everything back where it belongs, under the control of our Constitution and the people who put it there. And that's not you. If you can't vote, govern for us, get out. Put someone there who will, because you're not there lawfully. There's enough information around now, truthful information, not from you people you've taught. Truthful information says you're wrong and we're correct. Our Constitution is correct. Decisions of our High Court are correct if they weigh up against our Constitution. If they don't, they're automatically invalid. It's time the rubbish was taken out. It's time we were given our land back. We never gave you the right to change our titles or steal them. So you just think about that between the next 2 or 3 days and get your brains sorted out, because what you're going to do is put the lot of you behind bars for the rest of your life, and you lose everything you got if you're convicted of treason. And believe me, you're not going to get away with what you're doing. So have a nice Sunday. Bye.